In the heart of Manhattan, where skyscrapers clawed at the clouds and the streets buzzed with ambition, 7-year-old Lila Carter clutched a crumpled envelope. Her sneakers, scuffed and too big for her feet, slapped against the pavement as she weaved through the lunchtime crowd. Her mission was simple but daunting: deliver her mother's letter to Julian Harrow, the billionaire CEO of Harrow Enterprises, whose glass tower loomed like a modern-day castle. Lila's mom, Sarah, had been adamant Julian had to read it alone. Lila didn't know why, but she trusted her mom's trembling voice and the way her eyes shone with something urgent and unspoken. Inside the tower, the lobby gleamed with marble and ambition. Lila, in her faded denim jacket, felt like a sparrow in a cathedral. The receptionist, a woman with a smile as crisp as her blazer, raised an eyebrow. "Can I help you, sweetheart?" Lila squared her shoulders, her braids swinging. "I need to see Mr. Harrow. It's important." She held up the envelope, her mom's loopy handwriting spelling out Julian Harrow, private. The receptionist's smile faltered. "Mr. Harrow doesn't take walk-ins, hon. Especially not," she trailed off, eyeing Lila's mismatched socks. "Please," Lila said, her voice small but steady. "My mom said it's gotta be him. Alone." Something in her earnestness cracked the receptionist's polish. She sighed, made a call, and minutes later, Lila was escorted to the 60th floor. The elevator hummed, her stomach flipping as the numbers climbed. When the doors opened, Julian Harrow stood there, tall, sharp-suited, with steel-gray eyes that seemed to weigh her like a balance sheet. "You're the kid with the letter?" His voice was clipped, like he was already late for something. Lila nodded, holding out the envelope. "My mom said you gotta read it alone, sir." Julian's brow furrowed. He wasn't used to demands, especially not from a child who barely reached his waist. But something about her, maybe the stubborn set of her jaw, or the way she didn't flinch under his gaze, made him pause. "Fine. Come in." His office was a fortress of glass and leather, with a view that swallowed the city. Lila perched on a chair that felt like sitting on a cloud, while Julian slid open the envelope. "Stay there," he said, stepping to the window. As he read, his face changed, first confusion, then a flicker of something softer, like a memory he buried. The letter was from Sarah Carter, a name Julian hadn't thought of in 20 years. They'd grown up together in a dusty Ohio town, two kids with big dreams and not much else. Sarah had been his best friend, the one who'd believed in him when he was just a scrawny kid with a knack for numbers. But life had pulled them apart, Julian to boardrooms, Sarah to a quieter path. The letter wasn't long, but it hit like a freight train. Sarah was dying. Cancer, stage 4. She had months, maybe less. And she wasn't writing to ask for money or pity. She was asking for Lila. Julian, you've built an empire, but I know the boy who shared his lunch when I had none. Lila's got no one else. Her dad's gone, my family's scattered. I'm begging you, not for me, but for her. Be her guardian. Show her the world doesn't have to be cruel. Please. Julian's throat tightened. He glanced at Lila, who was swinging her legs, oblivious to the bomb her mother had just dropped. He'd spent decades building walls, deals, dollars, distance. Now this. A kid. His past, staring him down in pigtails. He folded the letter, his hands unsteady. "Lila, why didn't your mom come herself?" Her eyes, big and brown like Sarah's, met his. "She's sick. Can't walk much anymore. She said you'd understand." He didn't. Not really. But he nodded, buying time. "You hungry?" Lila grinned, gap-toothed. "Always." He ordered pizza, greasy, cheap, the kind they used to sneak as teens. As Lila devoured a slice, sauce smudging her chin, Julian watched her, his mind racing. He could say no. Send her back with a check, call it charity. But Sarah's words burned. Show her the world doesn't have to be cruel. Over the next weeks, Julian didn't commit, not fully. He told himself he was just helping out, letting Lila visit his office after school, where she'd doodle on his notepads or ask questions that made his assistants choke on their coffee. "Why's your tie so shiny? Or do you ever smile? Like, for real?" He'd grumble, but her chatter filled a silence he hadn't noticed before. Then came the call. Sarah was gone. Lila was alone, her belongings packed in a single duffel bag. Julian found her in a hospital waiting room, staring at the floor. She didn't cry, not in front of him, but her hands shook. He knelt, awkward in his tailored suit. "You're coming with me, okay?" She nodded, and just like that, Julian Harrow, the man who owned half the city, became a guardian. The transition wasn't smooth. Lila's nightmares woke him at 3 a.m. She hated his penthouse, calling it too big and cold. He fumbled through parent-teacher meetings, baffled by report cards and lunchbox politics. But Lila had Sarah's fire, her kindness, too. She left cookies for the doorman, thanked the barista by name, and once gave her coat to a homeless woman in a snowstorm. Julian watched, stunned, as the world softened around her. One night, Lila found an old photo in Julian's desk, him and Sarah, gap-toothed and grinning, at a county fair. "That's Mom," she gasped. "You knew her?" Julian hesitated, then told her. Not everything, just enough. About the kid he'd been, the one who'd almost forgotten how to care. Lila listened, her eyes wide, then hugged him. It was the first time he didn't pull away. The turning point came a year later. Harrow Enterprises faced a scandal. A whistleblower claimed they'd cut corners on a housing project, endangering families. The board wanted to lawyer up, bury it. Julian was ready to agree, until Lila overheard. "That's not right," she said, her voice sharp. "Mom said you were good. Fix it." He wanted to argue, to explain the stakes, stock prices, reputation. But her stare pinned him. So he dug deeper, found the whistleblower was right, and pulled the project. It cost millions. The board raged. But the families got safe homes, and the headline shifted. Billionaire CEO takes stand for integrity. At a charity gala that winter, Julian stood at a podium, Lila beside him in a sparkly dress she'd picked herself. He spoke about Sarah, about kindness as a choice, about a little girl who'd reminded him what it meant to be human. The crowd was silent, then erupted. Lila tugged his sleeve. "You're not so bad, sir," she whispered, grinning. He wasn't perfect. Neither was she. But in that moment, Julian knew Sarah had given him more than a daughter. She'd given him back his soul. And Lila? She'd found a home, not in a penthouse, but in a heart that was finally open.